held a meeting with social services and all these interested NGO parties about the grooming gangs within the children's homes, right? And mainly in the London Borough, Haringey. This comes out in the newspapers actually this week. And just saying that the police knew about it. It's like with Sadiq Khan claiming that there are no grooming gangs in London. Well, if you don't police it properly, there ain't any. It's simple as that, right? I had a senior member of one of the leading children's charities who's in charge of safeguarding told me that I was to stop looking into it. Otherwise, she'd report me to my seniors. I'm not to look into it. It got shut down. We found 52 children in 3 days. Shut down. Right? That was it. I'll give you an example of how bad this goes. One kid was 13 years old. He was in the late stages of AIDS. He was so sick from AIDS, from being anally raped. He was still being picked up from the kids' home and taken to clients, but he couldn't walk. So he was being carried into a car to be taken off to be anally raped. And
who are these clients?
Well, they'll be as varied as
who are they going through? I mean, I just don't.
There's people will pay, and they will come from every swathe of society. So, like, we go on about the Shirley Oaks Kids Home, in which kids there were abused. The conspiracy of silence is this: with these institutions, they get other kids to abuse other kids.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, a victim is now in their mind a rapist because they've done it to other kids. So this is how you deal with it. It's a very twisted logic, and of course, it causes turmoil, mental health, and then suicide. If you was to approach someone about to commit suicide and actually say, really, what is going on, that they will tell you, my childhood. So I was moved away from that unit after that meeting. And what turned me, and bringing back to your question, who are those involved, was the case that I had running through the court involving the 36 young girls was scaled down to 2 girls. Both of them girls died mysteriously from drug overdoses, right? They would have blown the lid on everything, right? Right. They both died. And it really hit me, and I'm thinking, it can't just be me. I've got kids out. I'm worried that they'll put my kids in care homes. They'll get sexually abused. So it caused my silence until someone really, I think was a gift from God. And that's Jimmy Savile appeared on the scene, right? And he died. And then posthumously, they turned around and said, this was the biggest trafficker of kids we've ever known. As evil as he was, it actually opened these things up, because all of a sudden victims flooded in. The BBC, Janet Smith tried to cover it up, couldn't. That the more they pushed it under, the bigger and bigger it got. And what happened was then people started speaking out. And one of the people who spoke out was a guy called Lenny Harper. And Lenny Harper was the commanding officer for the states of Jersey. And he'd gone to look into an inquiry into a children's home called Haut de la Garenne, in which children, it's the first time we really heard about it at the time, were taken from the mainland to an island. You see a prevalence of abuse in islands. The Ascension Islands had a huge one. The Falkland Islands police got dissolved a few years ago. None of it ever come out in the press. They were ringing up retired abuse detectives to go out there because it was a huge child abuse scandal was going on. Always on islands. Can't go anywhere. And you've got an incestuous environment and everything else. Kids were taken to Haut de la Garenne. They were put into a basement area. The kids that survived this, they said, posh white men, usually, they always say things they smelt of tobacco and stuff like that, would have sex with them. Some kids were chained up and whipped and beaten, tortured, and there was other reports that kids were used in these bizarre rituals like devil worship, and they were killed in a bath. And the victims were saying to the police, if you go in the basement, you'll find these things. When it was coming out, they flooded the basement with sewage, right? They diverted the sewer pipe, filled it up, so it got filled up with shite. Jersey has got the feudal system. It's really weird. They've got a thing called the honorary police of the Channel Islands, right? And that means the landowners instantly get the right to police their people without any training or any warrant card. They're given a uniform and they have access to police radios and police cars with no training, called the honorary police. Well, it's a feudal system. It's alive and well. People can't believe this goes on.
So when we're saying, you have no idea who you're dealing with, really, it's just the elites across the board.
Well, what happened with Haut de la Garenne? Lenny Harper pumped out the thing. He took an anthropologist and archaeologist. They found bone, kids, right? Skull and all sorts. They found blood on the wall. They found manacles. Everything the kid said was happening. And of course, it then brings it into, there was a ritualistic abuse side of this going on that was covered up. Wealthy people involved. Lenny Harper was then silenced with the loss of his home, his job, and his grandchildren. Well, I was threatened with the loss of my home, my job, and my children. If ever I mention, senior said to me, you will lose your home, your job, and your children. If ever you mention it, right? And I sat there and thought, this guy's gone through what I've gone through. So I contacted him and he said, come and see me. So I went up to Scotland to meet Lenny. And what he went through was exactly the same as what I went through. Then a guy called Mike Veal, who was a chief constable of Wiltshire, put out an operation called Operation Conifer, looking in and appealing for victims and survivors of Ted Heath, our former Prime Minister. He was inundated. There was something like 30 credible victims of rape, child rape, mainly men, boys, but also allegations of Satanism. And he actually mentions it on a Sky interview. Mike Veal was threatened in exactly the same way as me, and he was a chief constable. So it goes beyond it. So they've all become, Maggie Oliver, of course, we know about, but why don't we know more about Lenny? Why don't we know more about me? I'm not saying it's about me and London. Sure. It's convenient to concentrate all on one little area. It's convenient. It's not showing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture isn't minicab driving Kashmiris. The bigger picture is politicians. And look, I'm going to give an example how it works.
But we don't really, we're a bit over scheduled. Right. We don't have too much time.
Right, okay. I'll just give a snippet. It'll take 5 seconds. Right. The inquiry into the abuse cover-ups went to Scotland, and it was incredible what they found in Scotland, right? And in charge of the judiciary in Scotland was a guy called Nicholas Fairbairn, Lord Nicholas Fairbairn. He's dead now, and this came out. Nicholas Fairbairn was having an affair with a woman called Esther Ranson, who set up Childline. Nicholas Fairbairn was the advocate depute for Scotland. He was in charge of the Procurator Fiscal, the CPS of Scotland. He went to the elite Scottish Eton called Lorette College, where he suffered terrible abuse. He was abandoned by his mother. In this place he went, they would actually have a pit where they put boys in and urinate on them, as well as cane them, and put electric shock on them as well. It was part of the bizarre. He went on to become, maybe not as much as Savile, but there were many survivors accused him of rape. He was going into a kids' home called Forneath in Perthshire and raping young girls, right? He was in charge of the justice system for Scotland. He was named as a visitor along with Cyril Smith to Elm Guest House, where young boys were abused. So he was doing girls and boys, and he was in charge of the system. This shows you, this isn't a conspiracy. This is hard facts that came out in many inquiries. I get angered by the Epstein stuff, and people going, Epstein. Look at what they had in the UK, the ICSA inquiry, and no one knows about it. Or they think, I've heard about that. It involved our politicians. Lenny Harper said to me, be very careful, John, in speaking out, right? Because this goes right to the heart of the British establishment. And that is it. And look at Sir Peter Heyman, head of our intelligence services for MI6, right? Sex offender, right?
It's remarkable. It's so scary as well. Can I ask you a favor? Please subscribe. 90% of you are not subscribed, so if you sub, it will help the channel, and I'll keep making these clips.